This is a Rio Grande podcast. Presented by A&I Financial. All right, guys, welcome back to the Rio Grande podcast. It's another week on the show. It's another week, a good week, because we are hanging out today with Dr. Rios, imported from Edinburgh, McAllen, Texas. Right, straight out of Edinburgh High School. I just found that out like 10 seconds ago. So it's good to nice to meet you, man. Good to be with you.
All right, cuh.
Right. Yeah, we're getting this started the right way.
That's right.
Yeah, well, you're born
956.
born and raised, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I wasn't born here, but I got here in second grade, and
what kind of?
yeah, I do. I do.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember your life outside of that? Like,
yeah, a little bit, but I would consider myself from here.
Okay.
And I'm proud, because there's a lot of people out there, and you guys know who you are, that are not proud of here, but maybe by the end of this podcast, you might be a little bit more proud.
There we go, right? And that's exactly what we have, Dr. Rios here, right? To get us in that valley proud mindset.
That's correct.
All right. What elementary did you go to?
I actually went to St. Joseph Catholic school. Yeah, to 8th grade. Yeah, over here, off Business 281.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So, and then one thing that we found out recently is that you're a Harvard graduate, right?
That's correct. Graduated in 1986, back in the day without social media or any support, no internet, no nothing. Yeah.
Oh, man. So from Edinburgh to Harvard University.
Just like that, and if you ask me how that happened, it's because when I went to Edinburgh High School, there were guys that were older than me that were getting in, and I just looked at them. I said, if those guys can get in, I can get in. So, what are you guys doing? Just ask the question, what are you doing to get in? And then it was like, yeah. And that was actually the only school I applied to.
What?
Which was pretty stupid. One of my friends who was going to MIT, he was a year older, made me apply to MIT, and I got in there, but he was like, he got scared. And, for a reason, right? I mean, how arrogant and dumb that was, But I just had the confidence, seeing all my friends who had gone. Like, well, why couldn't I go there?
All the high school counselors right now are cringing. Like, oh no,
Yeah.
I think right now, like, it's like mandatory to like apply to 5 schools.
Yeah, back in my day, only about 10% of the people from your high school class went to college. Right.
Yeah, at all, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'll tell you this other story. When I was a freshman, and when I found out what these guys were doing, I walked into my counselor's office and said, hey, you know what? Give me the manual. I want to be the valedictorian. Right. Nowadays, everybody knows about being valedictorian, right? So everybody's gunning for it. But back then, nobody, this is like 1978. Everyone's just about football and stuff like that, right? Nobody cared. And so by the time people did care, it was too late. I'd already pulled ahead so far ahead that they couldn't. So, and she always thought like, wow, that, she kind of, it kind of, at that time, it blew her mind. That's a freshman. Can you imagine that back then? Nowadays, like, what the people win valedictorian by 0.0002, right?
Yeah.
So it was a different era back then. Yeah.
At Edinburgh High.
Yeah. And all over we were mostly a sports oriented type, community down here. Like most of the schools, most of the towns had one high school. So when the football, it was far against Edinburgh, it was Edinburgh against Mission. McAllen had 2, Brownsville had a few, but it was always like Harlingen just had 1. So it was like the whole city. You'd go down the city and there were signs of all the restaurants and stores. And so sports was king. As a matter of fact, when I graduated valedictorian, I didn't get anything. Like, they didn't give me a certificate or nothing. I got nothing. I didn't get a letterman's jacket, and I competed in math and science competitions and won about 40 competitions. But you could be the 3rd string guy on the varsity football team and get a varsity jacket. These days it's not like that, but that's how it was back then. Man. So, it was just it was a different era, but definitely laced with opportunities if you were able to take advantage of it.
Yeah, if you were driven, right?
Yeah, if you were driven.
There's an open market for
for sure.
For excellence, basically. Man,
and,
that's cool.
And I still think there's a lot of that here in the Valley. It's still available,
So did you know? Because I'm gonna backtrack a little bit for everyone. Of course, everyone knows this because everybody knows Dr. Rios, right? Like that's a given. But no, I'm kidding. But no, but that's true, man. Everyone, I've heard so many good things about you. Like I work with in the health field, and it was refreshing to hear, especially because you're from here. But I wanted to ask you, did you know when you went to Harvard? Because Dr. Rios is a board certified plastic surgeon, 27 years in private practice. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you know you were going at least for medicine?
Yeah, well, my dad was the first plastic surgeon down here. So we showed up in 1971. That's when I was in second grade. And so he was the first one. He wasn't one to tell me to do that, and I do the same thing with my kids, it's your life. But when you see how satisfied he was with his job, he just loved his job. Yeah, he loved to go to work. And then when you're with him and you go out to the community and people are just thanking him for, what he did. Because back then it wasn't really about breast implants and stuff. It was like people in car accidents, dog bites, burns, things like that, reconstructing people, helping them out. And so, as a kid, you just see that, you start putting those things together, happiness and then appreciation from his clients. So that makes a real positive impression, but I still stayed open-minded. But then it just became like, when I went to med school, I love pediatrics. I love kids, but I was more surgically oriented in the sense, like, here's a problem, fix it. Like, I can't be a doctor like you have high blood pressure and I need to keep seeing you every month, or a dentist, I need to see you on a schedule. Here's your problem, I want to fix it. Okay, done.
A to B.
Yeah, let's go. There's a satisfying feeling to that.
Okay, and that's something you had to discover yourself, right? Like probably in rotations and.
Yeah, and again, when I went to medical school, like college and medical school now are so different than when I went. We did not have teacher evaluations. Right. So we couldn't get a teacher kicked off a rotation because they were being mean to us. Back then it was like, you just got to tolerate. This is the pathway. If you want it, you got to go that way. Right. And so going to medical school, you literally got thrown into the surgery rotation. So you got to live it day and night, take call every other night, be up all night, get yelled at, be ignored.
As a student.
Yeah, as a student, don't eat for 13 hours. And so you had to you were going to know very quickly whether you were going to like that lifestyle or not.
But you did.
Yeah, it was good, and the other good thing is, I kind of stayed single and I could just concentrate on that, didn't have a lot of distractions growing up. And so going through all that, so I could just pour all my focus into that.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you something, sir. So Dr. Rios, out of Edinburgh, went to Harvard, went to middle school. I mean, middle school, you did too, right? Mm-hmm. But you went to Harvard, you went to medical school. Why did you come back to the Rio Grande Valley?
Yeah, that's a good question, and first of all, I think I loved growing up down here. All you people out there can say bad things about the valley, but I had the perspective of being able to leave. So I was able to really define what I really liked about this place, And so the things, I think the underlying things and issues, like the people here are super friendly. They're super nice, right? They're good people. The quality of life was good. Lots of sunshine. Yeah, it gets hot, but I'll take hot over cold any day. The night times are great in the summer. You can jump in a pool. You have air conditioning. You can live like that. You can't live when it's 5 degrees outside and blowing wind and your ears about to freeze off and your toes are freezing off. I mean, you can't live. It's not comfortable, right? So it's the people, the culture, the food's better. And, from a male point of view, the females were more traditional, took care of themselves a little bit better than, what I saw up in the Northeast. And then I saw in the future two things. One is I really wanted to get married and raise a family. And so I knew this was going to be a good place to do that with lots of opportunities, and then the second thing was business. My father was a plastic surgeon. We have the same name. Why was I going to swim upstream?
True.
Why not come back to a place where I'm already known? I'm already a known entity. My dad's already a known entity. Plus, there's a need for my skills. I just saw my friends who did go away and go to Harvard and MIT and become engineers. They couldn't come back here and work. There was nothing. There wasn't a SpaceX back then. There wasn't NAFTA with all these businesses. So we had what we call a brain drain. back in that day. And so it was kind of like an honor to come back with, my perspective, with all my education. And it was going to be an edge in business, of course, but to bring that back to the Valley. I just had a great experience. My high school, I just had a blast.
Yeah,
So I just had really good memories of growing up down here back in that day.
yeah, and that's why I'm asking, because even more, at that time, it must have been like a true rarity for someone to come back. Like almost like why, right? Did you ever get questioned like why are you here? Like why'd you come back?
Yeah, because it's not anymore because now we have big medical systems.
Yeah.
But, what you would sometimes see is that people were coming to the people who had a shady past or were disciplined and weren't very good doctors were recruited to come here because there was a lack of a specialty or whatever, but they had not practiced very well and did not live by high standards. And so it was kind of a place almost to hide. So you're right. When people would see that, they'd say like, why are you coming back? Because there was this negative connotation on that back then. But I think we've seen throughout the years, now we have a lot more doctors that are coming back that grew up in the Valley, So I think they're probably seeing the same thing that I'm seeing, that it's a good place to live. It's a good place still to raise a family. Good culture. So I think that was a perception. I did try to bring like colleagues that I trained with, and they would look at my case mix and they'd say, wow, you're doing like these great cases, but I don't know if we're going to, I don't know if we can do this, And I think one story for me that kind of that helped me give perspective. I remember bringing my Harvard college roommates down to go to spring break at Padre Island because that was becoming a thing back then with MTV and all that. And I remember, hey, let's go to water. We did a Whataburger run, 11 o'clock at night, something.
Classic.
We walk in and there's all my cuz, there's Chewy and Jesus and all them standing there, and my roommates walked in and they're just looking around and they're just saying, hey, is it safe here? They don't know these guys are the gentlest guys in the world, right? But
Yeah.
just from, so you could see how people were not used to living in an 88% Hispanic community, right? And so just from, what they've been told all their lives, gangs and the cartels and all this kind of crazy stuff, that like it's dangerous down there. And
on the border.
You're going to get kidnapped and, held for ransom and all this stuff, and so, I think for outsiders it can look a little scary, but this is probably actually the safest place I've lived in all my career, all the places I went to.
That's awesome that you say that, because we need to hear that, man. Because especially those of us who haven't like taken off, like a lot of us will like complain about like being, I don't know, stuck here. But there's a lot of people that have reached out to the show that they have taken off, and it wasn't until they took off that they realized, oh man, like at home, I at least I didn't have to worry about like a drive-by every weekend, or I didn't have to worry about, getting looked at a certain way.
Yeah, I think that's true, but maybe people do need to leave for a while to understand that, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And so I kind of understood it before I left, but like yeah, I mean, I think when you've lived in other areas, I lived in New Orleans and Oakland, California, Boston, and Houston, and those areas can be very dangerous. Like you're walking with your keys in your hands to get in your door. You're looking around everywhere. When you go into the parking lot of the grocery store, you're looking around to see if there's anybody there that's going to mug you, and it's not a comfortable way to live.
Yeah,
and you just don't have that down here. I mean, people may look scary just because they're hey, it's Chewy, and he's got a little he's got a little beard and stuff, a little belly and stuff, but he's like the nicest guy in the world.
Yeah.
People just don't know.
So you said that like with your dad, for example, that plastic surgery was more like reconstructive. Like it wasn't like what plastic surgery is today.
Yeah, when I came back,
what was the market like for your field?
Yeah, so my dad grew up in an era where you got paid well, even by Medicare, the government programs. You know what they would actually do? They would actually just get an invoice. I did a breast reduction, $6,000. Send a little paper to the government, and the government would pay them. That's how it was back then. So they were getting paid very well to do. Not to be doing breast implants. They were actually doing better with insurance. But then that got clamped down because there was abuses in that system, right? And so, when I came back, I probably did a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like my friends would say, hey, where are you going to go? Well, I'm going to go back home. There's no aesthetic surgery there, and there's no cosmetic surgery there. I'm just going to do reconstruction. I also did a hand surgery fellowship. So I did 1 year of hand surgery.
Oh, I saw that.
I really loved it. And "Nah, I'm just going to do this and that." But then, my first year, I only did one breast implant surgery. So at my height, when I was before all these crazy BBL cases that take a long time, at one point I was doing 400 breast implants a year. I was like the number one guy for a breast implant company in the whole Southwest. So I went from that, self-fulfilled prophecy to that. My idea wasn't to do, like when I came back, I wasn't thinking of having my own surgery center. I was here to do breast reconstruction. I had done microsurgery, hand surgery. Yeah, I did a ton of aesthetic surgery, tummy tucks, breast implants, all that. Yeah, I was going to do that, but I wasn't going to market all that, right?
Yeah.
But then as time went by and the insurance companies started really clamping down, then it was like, okay, I got to open that market up, right? And, at first, when you're a serious guy like that, I even had one of my staff members who worked, with the Catholic Church. Hey, can you go ask the priest, what we're doing to women, objectifying? And I asked a few women too, and they're like, no, you know what? This is a service. You're providing a service. You're very competent at it. So you're giving your patients an alternative. Like, they don't have to go to Mexico. They don't have to go to Houston. They don't have to go to Dallas. They can do it right here. So don't look at it that way. Look at it more that this is what they want, right? So you're offering it right here in their backyard at a very high level. So it was like, oh, okay. So the priest told me I wasn't going to go to hell because I was putting in breast implants.
Okay, but you checked.
My Catholic guilt, because I went to St. Joseph.
You tested the waters.
So yeah, I sometimes have to ground myself back and go back to the priest and ask these philosophical questions, to make sure, I'm on the right path.
Well, because that wasn't even your vision, right? Because you said that the valley was mainly reconstructive and then a little bit and it flipped completely.
Yeah. So what flipped it was in the late 2000s were all those all those shows, Extreme Makeover, The Swan. I think what ended up happening is regular people then found out, hey, this isn't just for the rich people. Anybody can do this. Right? Everybody thought back then that aesthetic surgery was just for wealthy people, right? Like the famous Hollywood stars would get facelifts in Beverly Hills, but then it was like, hey, anybody can do this.
Yeah.
And then now there's finance companies that can finance you like a car. So why wait? Why
true.
wait? Why not? And so all of a sudden the demand picked up.
In the 2000s? That's when this happened?
Yeah, 2000s and late 2000s really took off. Yeah, really took off.
And how did you become like the go-to guy for that? Or was it just like skill or word of mouth? Or did
I think it's a bunch of different stuff, right? So first of all, back in those days, we didn't really have non-plastic surgeons trying to do plastic surgery, okay? There wasn't that like infringement. So there weren't that many board-certified plastic surgeons. However, I knew from an early stage that if I was going to do this, I had to do it at a high level, high standard, right? Because if anything happened to anybody in my patient, that's in my office, that's great for the TV stations to come in, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we have to operate at a super high level. So we did that from the beginning where, I got my surgery center accredited before it was mandatory. I just implemented all the best equipment and all that and best standards and tried to get the best people I could at the time to help me do it. I started part-time, but part-time doesn't work. If you're going to really go in, you just got to go all in. And so then that's, I think, when things really changed, when I went to full-time. And so right now I operate 5 days a week doing aesthetic surgery. If you talk to any type of surgeon, they only operate Tuesday or Thursday or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? You work at a hospital, they have their blocks. I operate every day, okay? Because I want to maintain my full-time status for my staff at my office, right? So, and there's ways that I pick up my energy to do that, but most surgeons don't do what I do.
Because it's just, they don't have the bandwidth to do it? Or
I don't know. Maybe it's the mindset. You have to balance, you have to operate, but you also have to see patients to operate on them and to take care of them after the operations, right?
Clinic versus OR.
Yeah, so how do you balance that? And so that's what's so great about having my surgery center in my office. I can walk out of the surgery and they can already have patients ready for me to see, right, in the same day. But it does require high levels of energy, concentration, and staying focused on what your goals are, and just and I enjoy seeing all my new clients, because there's always something I can learn from them. I like laughing with them. I think when I walk out of the room, we'll talk, and then I'll say, okay, I'm going to give you a gown so we can examine you and all that. I'll be back. when I'm walking out the door, they're laughing. We're having a good time. So I just make it into a good time. So it's not work. It's actually a fun time.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you there. So, how do you achieve that? Everybody wants a nice culture, because right now you're not even talking about the culture between you and your staff. You're talking about the patients. Like, how do you get? Especially, okay, we're talking about plastic surgery, guys. Like, this is one of the most vulnerable parts, right? Like of the medical field, right? Somebody's, going to you for transformation. How do you get people so comfortable that they're laughing and just that energy?
So first of all, because you worked in the medical field, you've seen surgeons with a sour look on their face. They walk in and they're already yelling at everyone. They're already frustrated with their day. They're just,
I'm not saying anything.
maybe they had a fight with their wife. Their office is crashing and burning. They're overworked. They're burned out, right? So it has to start first in the morning. So like I have a routine. I get up by 4:30. I have a swimming pool. So right now I go in there and I do a cold plunge. I do actually a little motivational video from there every morning, just as a promise to myself that I'll do that. And then I exercise every day. So I have a personal trainer who comes to me 4 or 5 times a day. So he'll be there by 5. And the other days I run. I have a running coach who gives me a program. So when I hit the door, I've already been up for 2 or 3 hours, right? And then it's also what we call a stoic mindset, right? Which is the Stoic philosophers, right? So from Rome, which is like, you can't control like what President Trump does or whatever, right? The only thing you can control is how you react to things, right? And so, when people want to talk to me about what's going on in politics, I can't control any of that. What can I control? I control how I react to stuff. So when let's give an example. Okay, like let's say the air conditioner breaks, one of the air conditioners. Okay, get it fixed. I don't yell at, oh my God, once again, it's like,
Oh, it happened, right?
Yeah, it's just these things happen, so you can just like chill out and just like deal with it and then move. So that's one thing, is you got to have that peak energy. If you don't have the energy to start your day, what energy are you going to have to fulfill your tasks? How are you going to show up, right? And every day is exciting. Just to be able to take a breath is exciting. Actually, to be alive, the chances of us for like being alive are like 1 in 400 trillion, right? So there's been calculations done on that, and so just it's actually an experience, and you should enjoy it, and you should have gratitude. You can always go back to like, somebody's got it worse than me, or take a look around and see what you have. That, like, okay, my bank account's not so good today, but hey, I got my car and I got a nice house. I have food on the table. There's people in Africa that they don't know what they're going to eat that night. You can always have the gratitude, right? And get yourself out of that mood. And so from there, then you come into work, and then establishing the culture, though, that's like a different thing. If you want to talk about it, we can talk, how do you establish a culture in your business?
But that's how you come to the table, though.
Yeah.
All that. Like, you worked out for 2 hours. Because I asked you, how do you get, like, that nice environment? And you went into, like physically staying active,
right,
like, having the mindset. Like,
yeah, sometimes I come into my office dancing, excited. I have more, I'm 61. I have more energy than probably all the 20-year-olds put together in my office. They definitely do not have the same energy that I have.
Wait. But so you've been doing 27 years in private practice, years before that in medicine in general. How do you stay excited every morning?
Well, because I like what I do, and then, I have these other coaches. I have a business coach, and and I've been a disciple of Tony Robbins. I've had coaching from there. Actually, they even came and coached my office for culture. And then I have a new coach named Dan Martell. And so a lot of it is finding your purpose in life, right?
Okay.
And Simon Sinek also, who's real famous on YouTube, and his thing is, not the how, like, what do you do? Not the what. Like, okay, I'm a plastic surgeon. Okay, that defines like what I do, but what is it, what's your purpose in life? That's the next thing, right? And so Dan Martell told me your purposes in life is hidden within the biggest pain that you've ever had in your life that you've overcome. Okay. And so I had to reach back really hard, like, because I had great parents. I loved growing up. Where the heck is my pain? I didn't have, and then it came to me, and it all just came making sense, and it's tied into what I do. And so it was the confidence, right? Going to Harvard, being a 5'5" Hispanic dude, and you're there with 6 foot and over white guys, and you're just being overlooked because how you look. You're also not the smartest person you're not the valedictorian anymore. You're down, so you have to okay, let me rewire my brain in perspective. At that point, I knew I was going to medical school, probably plastic surgery. So I thought, well, there's nobody here at Harvard that's going to go to medical school, be a plastic surgeon, and go back to the Rio Grande Valley. That's only me. So that's my journey. So it doesn't really matter what anybody else's journey is. And so maybe I don't get A's, but I need to learn the material because I got to go to med school. Then when I was in med school, I got to learn the material because I'm going to be a doctor. Then once a surgeon, I got to learn how to get my patients off the table safely. And so it was just complete focus on what I was doing. And so that's what built the confidence in me.
I'm not listening to the noise either.
Yeah. So Dan Martell, this is a funny story. I actually spent a half a day with him. And at the end, we had lunch and he said, you know what? If I meet 200 people, I probably only meet 1 or 2 people that have your personality. And I told him, you know why, Dan? I said, you would think I'm 61 years old, 5'5", balding, Mexican guy. You think I wouldn't? I have all the confidence in the world. And with all those factors, you think I wouldn't have confidence. And I said, do you know why I have confidence? Do you know why? I'm focused on what I want to do. I keep the noise out and just go to where I want to do it. And the way that you get confidence is you say, hey, I want to graduate from Harvard, and you do it. Okay, so I kept that promise to myself. Now I'm going to med school. Okay, now I'm going to be a general. I had to go through 5 years of general surgery, which was pure hell. And then plastic surgery, And so I kept all those promises to myself and built up the confidence, right? And so what do I do in my practice? People come with their nose. They don't like how they look in Instagram. Doing their selfies, they can only do it one angle. What do? Fix the nose, they get their confidence back. A mommy makeover, had a bunch of kids. She wants to get her confidence back. What do I do with my staff? What do I do with my kids? I'm instilling confidence. And so there's the big purpose in my life, right? And so when I go to work every day, I'm fulfilling that purpose with my clients, also with my staff, because I'm helping them in their lives to get confident because they have insecurities about finances or relationships or the work or whatever. I'm there to now I've got the experience, right? I got the gray hair. I got the battle scars. So I'm there to calmly, just show them. But then you got to show by example, right?
And that's your purpose. Giving the people their confidence back.
Yeah, helping people restore. Because when I see somebody, and I'll tell you, if I see a 6'2" guy and I go, God, I wish I was 6'2", and they got their shoulders slumped and a belly. It's like, you don't know what your potential is just physically. What your potential is, what I would give to be 6'2", and you're just wasting that away. If you just fixed a few little things here in your mind and you just worked out for a month, you could be a monster, in a year you'd be unrecognizable, right? So I can see that potential in people. It affects me a little bit when, so that's what I do at work. So then I'm fulfilling my purpose at work, right? If I was just putting in screws on a manufacturing line, I wouldn't feel, I wouldn't want to work. I wouldn't stick with that for 27 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
true.
So I'm getting my fulfillment for my life's purpose. And, if people are like, okay, confidence, think about it this way. Let's say you're a woman who was abused and you overcame it. Well, look, Oprah, she was, she was sexually abused. She was abandoned by her mother. She was raised by a grandmother. She got pregnant at 13 and miscarried, and then it's just a horrible story. Back in the 50s, a little black girl, you think she'd become a billionaire, but she overcame that. So she really can help people, if you think you have it bad, take a look at what she went through, so that pain that you might experience somewhere along the line, whatever it is, and you've overcome it, that can be an example to help people pulling forward. And you'll probably get your biggest satisfaction because you'll recognize yourself in those people. No matter where you are in life, there's always a few people, behind you that could, benefit from you and your progress. And so I think we get fulfillment by understanding what our purpose in life is, but then also growing. You need to be also always growing. So, when people ask me, are you going to retire? No, I'm not going to retire. I'm just going to make a better work environment. So I'll just keep going. just have more fun.
And that's what you're doing.
That's what I'm in the process of doing. Awesome. I'm in a definitely in a different process, because I that's why I have a business coach, because I've been pulling the load too much. So now I'm kind of turning more from a surgeon to a surgeon CEO and having to learn those skills, because they don't teach you that stuff in medical school, and
the business side of it.
The business side of it, yeah. So.
Okay. So this is cool, because because you practice plastic surgery in the Valley. So, because we're talking about, you give confidence back to your clients, right? To your patients.
That's right.
Do you call them patients or clients?
Well, they're our clients.
Okay.
Right?
All right. Just asking. So what type of people, the person that walks into your door, right, seeking a plastic surgery, what type of person, what type of like mindset do they have? Someone that's looking for that physical transformation. Like, what's the pattern that you see in the people here in the Valley? Guys, if you've ever felt overwhelmed by money decisions, you are not alone. Let me introduce you to A&I Financial. They work with people here in our community to bring clarity to life's big money questions. Whether you're planning for retirement, your next business move, or everyday life, check out AIFinancialstrategies.com first to schedule your complimentary discovery meeting to get started on real advice that delivers real results. That's AIFinancialstrategies.com, where your vision becomes a plan. So huge thanks to HKC Law Firm for supporting our community. Hitesh is from the Valley, for the Valley, and he's ready to help you right now. At HKC Law Firm, it's never about a check. Your well-being comes first, every time. When you need a personal injury or criminal defense lawyer, search hkclawfirm.com.
Yeah, my real niche probably is with the mommy makeover patient, right? That's who we probably deal with a lot. And so what's happened there is a mother has sacrificed herself, right? Physically, emotionally, financially, for her family, for her husband, her kids, right? And she sacrificed everything. And then they get to a point where, hey, maybe now it's my turn. I want to restore myself. I want to look better in my clothes. I want to get rid of these stretch marks. I want to kind of change some things here that happened up top, And so that's kind of the mindset. I had a patient the other day, and so I thought it was interesting, because I've been doing more on social media, and one of the surgeries I did, I just mentioned real briefly, hey, this patient finally gave herself permission, right? So I always ask my patients, like, hey, why now? Why did you pick now? And this lady said, because I saw that video. And I said, I need to give myself permission, because I've been doing everything for everybody else. So I need to take some time for myself. Because if you can do that and you restore your confidence, how much better are you going to be now for everyone else around you, right?
True.
Right? You'll have the energy. You'll feel good. Just like the person with the nose, they're don't want to take pictures, or always avoiding photos, or if a mommy has a big tummy, they're avoiding the photos. They're not in the family albums and pictures and stuff. Now they can be more in, so they'll have more energy for their family, for their their loved ones, their relationship, their intimate relationship, maybe at work too. They're going to feel better. They're going to get compliments. They'll get external compliments. They'll get, they'll feel better. They'll see it. They might function at a better level. So it's really not about vanity, because I think some people get criticized. Oh my gosh, she went and got her nose or whatever. No, it's like, if it's going to help you restore your confidence and you're going to show up better, by all means, what's holding you back? Why wouldn't you do it? True. I mean, we do it all the time. We're going to go work out and get some muscles, going to look better. It's just another pathway, right? People are making New Year's resolutions right now to do that.
Yeah.
Why are you doing it? You're doing it because you want to show up as a better person, right? Better version of yourself, right? Yeah. So you can show up better and feel more confident, and, imagine how you would be with your spouse, like if a guy's like all muscular, he's going to feel, he's going to feel more virile and protect his wife and just more confident and shoulders up and all that, right?
True. I never thought about that, man, because plastic surgery is literally superficial. It's external. But what you're talking about, all the changes that you're focused on are internal. Like, you're talking about confidence and being more present, and now that mom is gonna have more energy because she's gonna be in the pictures. Now she's gonna be part of the memories. Like, you're transforming so much deeper than what people think of.
Right. I think that's it, and that's where we try to make the connection, right? I ask those questions.
Yeah.
I try to dive in there so then they can understand, what, how this is going to be for them. Sometimes I have to explain it to the partner, but sometimes I think there's two things that, that our mommies kind of is the guilt of vanity and doing something for themselves. And then if they have young kids, they're like, what if something happens to me during surgery, And I was doing something for myself. It's one thing if you had to take your appendix out or your gallbladder out, you have to do it. You don't have a choice, right? But here it's like I'm doing something. So they come with these types of issues. So I kind of have to help them work through it, So the thing is, like, I think these days, hey, go to Miami and get your butt done. It's $2,000, or go to Progresso and it's like I can get the whole thing. But you're not getting you're just commoditizing the procedure. There's so much more to it. There's the before and understanding their expectations. Like I had a lady yesterday, she thought she was going to get just liposuction of her tummy, but her muscles were loose from having some big babies. And it's like, no, you need a tummy tuck so I can tighten up. But I had to, what are you trying to get? Like, what's your expectation? The lipo's not going to do that, we got to talk about what's in and just give that option and say, here's the differences and you pick, but you got to listen to them. You can't just rush in there, like your staff can, she wants, okay, you're going to get a tummy tuck. Great. All right. You're going to love it. It's going to be great. All right. And it's going to be this much and I'll see you later. Bye.
This is the menu. Yeah.
And that's kind of what's happening these days. Right.
And that is happening, right? Like,
oh, heck yeah.
What is it? Social media or like, what's up with the rise?
Yeah, I think probably that. And, just the environment, probably social media, that instant gratification, right? So you're not thinking about the overall structure. And I'm also going to blame our industry as well, because we're also kind of tuned into that now, I guess, because that's how it's been coming at us.
Yeah.
That we don't talk about, like, this is actually, we're establishing a relationship. We're going to get you ready, then have the surgery, then take care of you afterwards. And then there might be some things afterwards that you might need to do to maintain. Like, some of these people might get these big surgeries, but they don't have real healthy lifestyles. Like they're not exercising, they're not eating well. So we've got all the Ozempic and all the weight loss drugs, so we can maintain your results so you don't come back, right?
Yeah.
There's lymphatic massaging for the swelling after big surgeries, there's so many other things to kind of go into. For example, our breast implant patients, we have a high definition ultrasound. So we schedule them at a year, a free ultrasound, just to do a quick surveillance in our office. It takes 5 minutes. They don't have to go to DHR. They don't have to go anywhere. They just come to my office. And then at 3 years, which is what the FDA requires, some sort of it. And then it's available anytime they're in a car accident or whatever. We have that there. You see, we try to establish a relationship. Cool. We don't just do the breast implants and see you later.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We want to be there for you should you have any issues, right? Because we're not just trained to take care, to do the surgery, but also take care of any issues occur afterwards.
Is that the industry standard, or is that just something that you're doing? Like,
well, that's what the FDA does, but I'll tell you, probably most people are not like providing those types of services.
That's why I'm asking.
Like I see we put that out there, and we get a lot of people coming in from people who had surgery in Mexico, even in Houston, Dallas, because, oh, wow, there's somebody just right here. I can just go to their office and get a quick scan and make sure I'm okay. So hasn't been there yet. But, as a CEO and visionary of your business, you always got to be looking to the future. Or my idea is always whatever we can do to have our patients have the best experience. So, for example, in 2010, I put in 3D imaging, so I just thought to myself, like, what's the question that people ask what am I going to look like after the surgery? Right? That's probably the main question, right?
Yeah.
So in 2010, there was a company that developed 3D imaging where we take your photos and then, I can show your nose, I can show your tummy, lipo, we can show your breast implants, we can show your breast lift, we can show you all these things, right? And so that was in 2010. That's 15 years ago. So many plastic surgeons don't offer that.
Well, even now?
They don't offer it, and so, and I've gave lectures, like, it only costs you like 5 breast implant surgeries to have that technology to be able to answer, like, and I try to put it in perspective to them, like, okay, you're a plastic surgeon, you made a lot of money, now you want to build your dream house, right? Do you want to go to an architect that just, here's 5 houses I built before, or here's some paper sketches, or do you want them to be able to have that 3D imaging where they can, let's take the roof off and let's look at different angles and do you want that.
Yeah.
That technology is available for our patients. Why wouldn't you do that?
That's good perspective, because
Right.
now they're the patient, they're the client.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
come on, guys, like,
True.
and they come up with their excuses, and so many of them don't have it. And so we do it for our patients, and we're always thinking, and we're looking ahead to artificial intelligence and implementing that in our office. And so like this year I have 2 tracks, and so I'm challenging my 2 people that are helping me, like, let's implement every month something into artificial intelligence. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's a surgical procedure or something, but it's how we handle the flow to get a better patient experience, right?
And how's that going, implementing AI into your...
It's going to be great. It's nothing to be scared of. It's just what you got to do.
Yeah. That's progress,
if you don't do it, you won't have a business in a few years, because I'm going to kick your butt out there if you're a plastic surgeon, because we're going to, we're going to have our, I'm developing even like a virtual consultant that you could at 2 a.m. have a consult with them and get your answers questioned and have a real person in front of you talking to you.
You're doing this right now?
Yeah, we're developing all that so that, we're available 24/7.
Yeah,
for our patients, right? You just have to think about it and just get it rolling, right? So
that's a good idea, because I bet you there's a lot of 2 a.m. Conversations with yourself where you're like, man, if only my nose didn't look like that.
Right.
That's probably when you think about it more, like when you're in the shower or in bed at 1 a.m.
So like for me, it's about the patient experience, right? Yeah. Break down the barriers, like get out of your mindset and just think about, okay, what could I do to make this a better experience, or how could I automate this? And we all have this thing, you got to go to the doctor's office for an appointment. Why not start here? Why not get all your information, maybe even the 3D imaging, even maybe help you with financing and your quotes and all that kind of stuff. And you want to move forward, then we move forward, right? And so, break down the barriers, go 24/7. I've been reading business books, and my business coach, he was challenging one of his manufacturers and saying, you could run 3 shifts. You only run 2 shifts. I can't run. And here's 5 companies in your city that's running 3 shifts. Go talk to them. This is a mindset issue, right? Now, unfortunately, in surgery, we can't run 3 shifts, because I can't discharge a patient at 2 a.m, and they fall asleep and they stop breathing, and their families will say, I mean, that's just not the standard, right? But I could run my surgery center 7 days a week, and I do have 2 operating rooms, so I could run 2 operating rooms 7 days a week, 2 shifts, so you just get out of your mindset, get out of your own way, try to think outside the box. Yeah, comfort. That's the thing. But as we were talking before, this world is designed more for comfort than it is for like expanding your brain and doing the tough things,
I talked to a trauma surgeon, and he told me that if you want to grow, you have to be uncomfortable. And he said, if you're comfortable in any one thing, you're not getting better. And that stuck with me.
Yeah, that's 2 things, So like if you're a bodybuilder and stuff, what do they focus on? The exercise that they're doing is tearing up their muscle. So it can rebuild, right? Literally, that's how they focus. How do they get bigger? How do they get better? Is by that process, right? And then this year, my business coach, Dan Martell, I was looking for things from Tony Robbins. Okay, let's look at New Year's resolution. And his thing was, one of our calls was like, where are you playing it safe? Where are you playing it safe? And so I went to ChatGPT, started having the conversation and talked, and it said, hey, you know what? You are exceptional for 61. But you have way more potential than that. That's not saying much, right? Like,
Man, you got slapped around.
It's not that hard to be exceptional for a 61-year-old, because a lot of guys aren't doing anything, right? So how are you going to take that to the night? Like, don't compare yourself to a 61-year-old. Like, you're doing enough to maintain yourself. With your relationships, like, hey, I only see my mom once a week. Well, yeah, you won't have regrets when she passes away, but what if you just got a little bit more intense and intentional about that with your kids, calling them more often, your business, with your health, you're doing good. You're pretty damn good, but you could be better.
Yeah.
You're just living in comfort, because look, I can do my workouts and it doesn't, like, I'm not sore afterwards, right? But today I did 100 pull-ups in all different positions,
Today?
Yeah. So, this morning, so, that's to make me uncomfortable and to try to get me to that next level, right?
Yeah.
And so, but that's not what most people want. Most people want, so when the alarm goes off at 4 a.m, and you want to hit that snooze button, which I still do, that's that version of yourself that's comfortable, wants you to stay in bed and doesn't want you to grow. You have to crush that guy.
That's the hardest thing.
But it's a fight every day. Everybody who does it, like all the influencers that do that in personal development, I mean, they'll all tell you it's not easy, And then even when you're not feeling good, you go work out. A year and a half ago, I broke my foot while I was working out. I was a jump rope, and I had a high platform shoe, and I twisted and I broke a metatarsal in my foot, and I finished my workout. It hurt like hell. I screamed in the shower. But then I thought to myself, okay, you know what's going to happen here? You're still going to work. You're going to see all the people that are going to come and support you during this time. So I had like a 10 hours of surgery that day on my foot hurting.
With a broken foot.
And I still went to the workout the next day with that little scooter thing. And I was punching the punching bag and I could do push-ups with the foot behind the other leg,
The next day?
I wasn't going to let that.
10 hours of the OR.
Yeah.
The day that you broke your foot.
Yeah.
Did your patients know?
No. It's like I'm there for them, I'm not going to bring my problems to them. I'm going to get to a higher energy level, Yeah. So I would scoot down the hall in my scooter, leave it out the door, walk in, with my little, a little bit of a limp. Stand there, talk. Yeah, it hurt, but then you go, that just wasn't going to stop me.
Yeah, it wasn't enough to get
a broken
you down.
foot is just a broken foot out there in the universe. Like that's not going to stop me from like my higher mission, right?
Like what you said, it's not the circumstances, how you react to it, right?
Yeah,
the broken foot is just...
It's just there.
It is what it is.
It could be there. It might not be there. It's there that day. It's going to be gone in 6 weeks. I mean, it's like what's your purpose? What are you doing? What have you committed to? And in a way, it always, this for people who are in personal development and growth, you're going to get obstacles thrown at you so that the universe can determine if you really want that or not. Right? It's not like getting a lottery ticket. If you want to be successful, you got to work at it. Bad things are going to happen. This thing about the secret and there's abundance out there and just manifest it and all, it's a bunch of crap. You have to actually work towards it. If you work towards it and you prove to the universe that you're capable of getting that gift from the universe, then you will get it, right? And so the universe will throw challenges at you to see how you respond. And then if you respond correctly, you're going in that journey of the person who can accept that gift if it's a relationship. I mean, look at all the lottery winners, right? They haven't gone through a journey to become that person to get $1 billion, right? So, all the sacrifices, all the days they didn't have money and I got to save money and I got to do this and what's my strategy with money? And they haven't figured out their relationship with money. And then one day they have $1 billion and what happens? It's gone because they didn't go through the journey.
To appreciate it.
Yeah, to appreciate it. And so that's an example. Okay, here's your abundance, this secret manifestation stuff. It's out there. It's going to come to me. No, you got to if you're going to handle that from the universe in a correct way, you've got to go through the journey. So you are that person that can accept that. Your current person will not, like my current status as a surgeon CEO is not ready to do what my vision wants. I have to work up to it. So I have to understand that, right? And I have to go through the failures and the hard times and the hard discussions and hard decisions and the good times. And then there's some tough times. But that's just part of the journey.
Part of it.
Then you become that person that can actually accept that from the universe.
Yeah, and I want to say something, guys. One of the things that I really appreciate about doing this podcast is I get to pick the brains of a lot of people at high levels or that are doing things at high levels, no matter what. Like in this case, Dr. Rios is a plastic surgeon, but we can apply what he's talking about to anything in life.
Oh, sure.
He's talking about his mindset as it relates to plastic surgery, but this whole thing is about like challenging yourself and about being willing to get uncomfortable. Like you can apply this to whatever. I mean, you could be a cashier at McDonald's and you'd be the best one if you tackle it the way that if you try to approach things the way that we're learning from you right now.
Yeah.
Like this is anything in life.
Yeah. I mean, talking about McDonald's, I had a high school classmate 2 years younger than me and was not popular with the girls, was always overlooked. He worked at McDonald's. Now he owns all the franchises and in the Valley, and he's a multimillionaire. And I don't know if he even went to college, but he just worked really hard at that.
So it doesn't matter what you do.
No, it doesn't matter.
It's always the mindset, right?
Yeah, it's always the mindset. There, again, we don't control who our parents are, how we came into this world, right? But we can control what goes forward, right?
Okay, so it's not what we got. It's not about what's happening. It's about how we react to what's happening.
Yeah, so that's the victim mentality, right? And so the victim mentality, it's everything else but you, right? Like it's Donald Trump. It's the economy, it's the tariffs, it's whatever, right? And the reason is that if you blame everything else, then you're helpless. You're the victim. You don't need to do anything. You can just still stay on the couch and not work and gain 100 pounds and eat fast food, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Are we guilty of that in the Valley?
So, well, everywhere.
I think mentality?
That's easy, and the people who are successful are not victims, right? If I get a circumstance like a broken foot, I just take a look at that and say, okay, what can I learn from this? Part of succeeding is failure. You're not gonna. So, and there's a philosophy in Silicon Valley that you want to fail. The sooner you fail, and you see where your system's broken, you can fix it.
Oh,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and then you'll get better. You'll learn from that. So, like, in people who are growing, they want to fail quick because they want to see. I was asking for that feedback. This was a funny one because it's New Year's. I asked my surgical tech, if I was the main character in a movie and you were looking at me, what would you scream at me to do to stop doing, so that I could save myself, and because we don't see that in ourselves, right? But other people, in the movies, they do it on purpose, right? The guy's driving his bicycle towards a cliff, or they're going somewhere and there's somebody with a knife or something. Don't go there.
Everybody's like,
the guys with the chainsaws in the barn, like, don't do it, right? You're going to mess up all your car. You could have left. Why did you stay? Like all that kind of stuff, So you can ask people that, like, if I was the main character of a movie, what would you be screaming at me to change?
We got some homework now, guys. We got some homework. Ooh.
That was a lot of fun,
Okay. Hey, I'm going to ask you, I got one last question for you, doctor. So, all right, guys, we have a board certified plastic surgeon, been in private practice for 27 years, Harvard graduate. We have an opportunity to get something out of this conversation. I want to ask you, in my personal experience on the podcast and life, I've seen that a lot of us do struggle with like self-confidence, or just like personal, maybe even like we just don't give ourselves enough credit for things, right? So let's label that as self-confidence issues. What advice can you give someone who's struggling with that, with poor self-confidence?
So where that comes from is when you set a goal. So let's say you, like what everyone's going through right now, right? New Year's resolution, right? And what you want to do is like put some emotional thing. Like, let's say you're like, I'm gonna get 10 pounds of muscle and get fitter, and you put some exact numbers, and my body percentage fat is like, get very specific, because I want to show up the best for my wife. You're anchoring it to that, right? Or you can also anchor it to like put a vacation. If I don't get to these goals, I'm not gonna go on this vacation, and you enroll your wife and she can help you. Now she's not going to give you Whataburger. No, I want to go on that trip in 3 months, right? But the way to get to confidence is pretty simple. Is making a goal, for example, you're a podcaster, and you could say, I want to do one podcast a week for a year, right? And you do it even when you don't feel like doing it, even if you have the flu or a cold, and you do it. And then now you have the confidence in yourself that what you've promised, you've delivered. Now you have the confidence in yourself, right? And so then you start building that equity of like, I can trust myself, now other people can trust me, and now you're showing up as a different person, right? With your shoulders up and all that, because you've put in the work. But confidence starts with fulfilling the promises to yourself. Right.
Okay. So make a promise to yourself that you're going to accomplish something. And when you tackle it, you're going to look back and say, hey, I did it.
Yeah. Because now you can trust yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you did it.
Right. Like if you said, I'm going to get up every day at 4 a.m, go work out, but then you snoozed and you stayed in. How are you going to feel dang it, I just broke that promise to myself. You don't have any confidence in yourself.
You're not trusting yourself.
You're not trusting
You're
yourself.
not confident in yourself.
Right,
You're not
right.
confident that you're going to do it because you haven't done it.
Right. I don't have any confidence that I can accomplish things. So why would, if I can't trust myself, why would other people trust me? How would I have the confidence to interact with other people? If you're a business person, sell my product, deliver a service, I can't even keep the promises to myself. How confident would they be in me keeping the promises to them? Right. So that's why, it's controversial, but a lot of my mentors talk about it. Like, if you're talking about personal development, the first thing is your physical. You got to get that energy in doing that, because if you really look at it, if we do it subconsciously, right? Like, let's say I show up as your surgeon. I was in the pool. I'm awake, and hey, baby, how's it going? Let's do this. Do you have any questions? I'm excited for you. Let's say, versus a guy who just rolled out of bed and his hair and his eyebrows are like this.
Oh, yeah.
And hair from his nose and his ears, and his scrubs are all wrinkled, and horrible shoes and just slumped shoulders. Like, who do you want to have surgery with?
Yeah.
A guy who's fit, who's, doing all these things, because when you see somebody like that they're keeping the promises to themselves, right? To stay fit, right?
Yeah.
So this guy is keeping the promises to himself. He's probably going to keep the promises to me, right? That guy is not keeping the promises to himself. His life's a mess. He can't even get himself organized and all that. Do I feel comfortable putting a big project over there? If he can't get up out of bed, he can't, deadline hits, what's he going to do? Versus the guy who shows up like, okay, this is the plan. This is what we're going to do. They're in shape. They're looking good. They're sharp. They talk to you just like that. Yeah, I'll go with that one, So you got to start with yourself, your energy levels, keep those promises to yourself. Once you start accumulating that, it's like you're putting money in the bank, right? Now you're confident, right? So like, let's say one of my patients gets a little wound and they're like, hey, have you ever seen anything like that before? And I'm just like, yeah, I've seen some horrible things in my, dealt with some horrible, I have the confidence because I've dealt with it. I didn't run away from that hard training, right? I went to the hard training. I spent those nights. I, dedicated myself. I didn't quit, so I have the confidence to take care of them. So that's how you develop confidence. It's not something somebody else gives you, somebody else tells you. It's those promises you keep to yourself.
Okay.
And then you trust yourself and you have confidence in yourself. And then I'm a trustworthy person. I'm confident. I'm here, I'm going to do this. I tell you I'm going to do it.
Thank you for that. That's tangible, because that's so basically make a promise to yourself that you can keep, fulfill that promise, and then look back and say, hey, like, I did it.
Yeah.
And now, like, you're more confident than you were before you it's a good exercise to do.
But the thing with it is, be pretty specific, right? Just don't say I'm going to lose weight, because if you lose 1 pound, okay, you fulfilled that. No, you want to be like, by this date, you want to be very specific. You want to be specific. Okay. You want to specific. You want to have, by this date, these metrics. If you're going to lose weight, okay, what's the weight? What's the body fat percentage? How are you going to measure it? I'm going to measure myself every week, and then what's the consequence if you don't, and then what's the emotional anchor that you're putting around it? Like, if you can have other people involved in I'm doing this for my kids, for example, if you have kids, I'm going to grow my podcast because it's going to eventually help my family and my kids. And that's when those hard days come that you don't want to get up and you're like, I got to get up. It's for my family. They're not going to eat today if I don't get up and do this, right? So now you're not feeling your best. And also, we didn't really talk too much about this motivation. I need to be motivated. Motivation comes and goes. The way that you win is with discipline, right? So like I say, every day I'm going to wake up by 4:30. I do it. And then that creates the results.
Whether you're motivated or not.
Whether I'm motivated or not. I just do it.
Whether you broke your foot this morning or not.
So you would think that discipline, waking up at 4 a.m, you would think that that's not freedom. Like, you're chained into like, it actually creates freedom because you do it. Now my health is better, so I'm free from all that kind of stuff. My energy is better. It creates, discipline creates freedom, because if you're disciplined with your money, right? You're just spending your money all over the place. But if you're disciplined, no, I'm not going to go out. I'm going to have my Keurig. I'm not going to Starbucks, which is something that I'm not going to go spend $7. I'll just spend 75 cents.
Yeah.
If you stay disciplined, I'm not going to, what happens at the end of time is now you're retired and now you have the freedom to not work. You have the freedom to go travel and you have the freedom to do all those things because you were disciplined.
Yeah. So it's not restrictive. It's liberating.
No, it actually will liberate you because you stay disciplined here. And that goes to other concepts about imagine your future. We always talk about.
Thank you for that.
We always talk about, God, if I would have known this when I was 20 years old, shoot, I wish I would have known. Okay. What we never talk about is like, how about the future self? Okay. Like, I want to be this guy still working at 70. So this guy is saying, hey, you better floss your teeth. You better get up and exercise. You better save the money. My future self is trying, I want this. I can't go to the back. I can't go back and tell that guy's gone. Again, that's a victim mentality. That's just a loser mentality because that changes nothing.
It's not productive.
Yeah, it changes nothing. Okay. This guy is in your future, right? And so if you say, I want to be this guy, now the decisions you make today, they're going to impact that guy. So now you make better. So how do you make better decisions is have this future vision of who you want to be. And then say, is this going out and drinking all night long going to help me become that guy? Is me skipping, flossing my teeth, me skipping workouts, me eating Whataburger, it's like, you don't have to be perfect, but why not think about the future guy that will say, thank you very much for flossing your teeth because now my teeth are good. I don't have like all these problems, crowns and root canals and all that like all my friends have.
Yeah.
Thank you for spending that 3 minutes a night because you protected me from having all this horrible dental stuff later on, right? Or you prevented me from having diabetes and heart disease and I don't fall down and break my hip because I have muscle, and I have money in the bank and I can travel, I can retire. I don't have to keep working. Thank you so much for protecting me because you're eventually going to go that. You can't go back.
Yeah.
But that's so silly. Like if I could take this.
And why do I think like that then?
Because you know why? Because you can't do anything about it. So you don't have to take action. Here, if you're trying to protect your future self, you have to take action.
So we're being lazy without knowing it.
Yeah.
We're being comfortable.
Yeah, it's just so easy to say, oh, if I would have known this, I would have done things different. But I'm here today. And so I don't have to I'll just keep watching Netflix and get DoorDash in here, from the Panda and, 2,000 calories, in one meal. But if you think about your future self, don't get that Panda. Why are you watching Netflix? And that's one funny thing. Like I always hear my people talking about, hey, did you see this Netflix? I go, I don't watch Netflix. My life is a Netflix.
Oh, drop the mic.
Yeah, my life is a Netflix. That's
a good one, man. Right? But it's true though, right?
Right. Like, I don't care what they're doing. My life's more interesting than their life.
All his staff right now is like, oh, yes.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, he doesn't know anything about these shows. They always ask me. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Because you're spending your time doing other things.
I'm always spending my time. Like, I already talked to ChatGPT yesterday. What are we going to do tomorrow afternoon for personal development and growth and stuff? It already has all the questions I have to answer and get through,
I got one more question for you. So what do you do for you? Like, I could be asking, this could mean what's your hobby? What do you do in your spare time? Like, we've been talking about what you do for everyone, and you've been giving us all these things, right? Like growth mindset. I want to learn a little bit about you. Like, what do you like to do? What do you do on your own time?
Well, so I, definitely I exercise because I actually like it.
Okay, so you enjoy it.
I do that for myself. I do a cold plunge because I actually like it.
So that's not your work. That's part of like your me time.
Like if I don't do that, that's part of me. That's the difference, right? It's not like if I want to quit smoking, blah blah blah. I'm not a smoker. I'm not a drinker. That's my identity, right? I exercise. I'm an athlete. That's my identity. That's
You're
what
an
I
athlete.
do.
Okay.
Right? This isn't painful for me. This is, if I don't do this, I'm very disappointed. This is what I do. When I go on trips, I figure out my exercise routines, where I'm going to do, if I'm going to run, I figure out where I'm going to run, how far am I going to run. I figure all this stuff because that's who I am. That is my identity. So I exercise, do that. Definitely a lot of personal development and growth. So if I'm running, I'm listening to something I'm not listening to music. I'm listening to something that's expanding my mind.
Yeah.
I do my coaching, a lot of coaching during the week, different areas. Pretty much work on my business, relax sometimes, but really moving all the time. I used to play in a band.
I heard about
Yeah,
that. I heard you
yeah.
were a drummer, right?
I used to drum, but bass player was the last iteration of
I
what
heard
I did.
about
And
this.
so I like that, but it took a little bit of time. So I'm kind of taking a little break from that, but I do enjoy it.
You did it like at venues, right?
Yeah, yeah. We were in
somebody at work told me
Brownsville,
they saw
South
you.
Padre, down 17th Street, Gremlin.
What was your name, man?
What was my name or what were
The
we
name of
called?
the group.
Oh God, why am I forgetting our name? But I'm going to remember it here in just a second.
Okay.
But what's funny is the guy who is the leader of the band. Oh, it was I Ching Gatos. But I Ching is like that's a Chinese philosophy, right? But so it's a little play on words, right?
Oh my God.
I Ching Gatos. That's who we were.
And he forgot the name of that.
Yeah. So I Ching Gatos, and then our band leader, he would always forget my name. Right. So I told him, like, he'd say, this is Luis Garcia or whatever, like he couldn't remember. Right. So I said, look, just no more call me that. Just call me Casanova. And so then somebody became Supernova, and everybody became some sort of Nova, Chevy Nova. Like our accordion player was like, I was conceived in a Chevy Nova, so I'm going to be called Chevy Nova.
That worked out.
It just became a joke amongst the band. But yeah, that part, I'm leaving it there. But I do have a band set up, and so
do you at home?
Yeah. Well, I have a core group of people. We'll get started in maybe in a year or so, but we're going to call it Sculpted Sound.
Oh, snap.
And so we'll start back up again.
Sculpted because like
body
sculpting. Snap, man! This guy's
Sculpted Sound. So that's there. And my office will sponsor it, and we'll get it up and running again.
That's
But
cool,
I
man.
like to paint a little bit. I like to read.
So you're artistic.
Yeah. I just dabble in a little bit of everything, but mostly just keeping my mind going and entertained. Like my daughter would ask me, "Hey, Dad, why don't we go to like these trips and go to the beach?" It's like I can't sit on the beach. I just can't. I cannot sit on. I need to go to a city where there's history. I can run. I run the city. I explore the city.
Museums.
I look at museums. I like all that kind of stuff. Like stimulate my brain. I just can't sit at So if you were married to me, you just wouldn't. If you just want to lounge, it ain't gonna happen.
Not gonna work, honey.
You're gonna have to keep moving. Get those steps going all day long.
What do you do to like chill, like to relax?
To relax. Well, like today, what I'll do is I'm gonna hit the pool. I have a pool, and I'll sun. But at the same time, I'll be working on, like I said, ChatGPT said, let's go to work on some
You're not
stuff.
relaxing.
Yeah, but it's still fun. I like it.
Yeah.
I have my little energy drink. I'm just there. I might go hit a few little sets of dips or something in between and just but it's very relaxing.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's relaxing for you, right?
Yeah. Like I'm getting sun. That's good. That's always good. And then not too much. You don't want skin cancer, but I tan okay. And then, just kind of die. So I kind of escape, right? You just escape and start thinking about things and unfolding your mind and all of your limiting beliefs of like what you think's holding you back. Because I heard you talking about how people from the valley have this like inferiority complex or just like downplay the valley. That's just a mindset.
It's true though, right? Like
It's just a mindset. We got great food. We got great restaurants. I think the one area that we could probably do a little bit better is like we don't have these festivals during the on the weekends.
We're working on that.
It's getting there, right? But like during this time of the year, we should be having like
true.
There's always like festivals in the big cities, places where young people can go and hang out. I think that's probably at least we're getting better coffee shops and things like that, where it's more, I think, for the young people, right? To be able to hang out and meet each other and that kind of stuff. I think we need to develop that a little bit more. But it's going to get there. It'll get there in the next decade, a little more. Like we developed all the running trails,
run clubs,
parks and things like that. Because when I came back to the valley, I was doing a lot of 5Ks and 10Ks. When I'd show up, it would be like 25 people, and it was one a month. Now, in one on Saturday, there can be 10 across the valley, and there can be 500 people, 1,000 people. Back when I came, like in 1999, there was like 25 people.
And it's the same 25.
Same 25, and it was just one, and just one here on one weekend. 2 weeks later, there was another one. Now it's like, and now it even goes through the summer. even when it's hot. You know, it just keeps going all year. Back then, it was just October to February, and then it stopped.
So that's a product of community growth.
Yeah,
I'm not even talking population. I'm talking community, like things that we do do together.
Yeah, I mean, it's been proven that if you build these trails and things, your city actually gets healthier. You know, and this has been studied. The cities that have more outdoor facilities and things like that for people to be at, and you'll see it. You walk down, you go drive by these walking trails, and there's people on it all day and night, riding their kids and riding their bikes, walking their dog. If you build it, people will use it, you know, but that's where we're a little bit behind, but I think we're starting to,
we're getting there, man.
We're getting some movement. So I think, you know, we get concerts down here. We have good restaurants. You know, there's nice bars. There's good coffee houses, you know. So, I mean, there's things, but within that, there's also opportunity, right? Because maybe we don't have some of those things. And so smart people can bring those things.
Yeah. So that's how I see it. Like anytime I look at the valley and I see what we don't have, that's just that's open market.
Yeah, you can complain about it, but you know, those are the people that are sitting watching Netflix and DoorDash, and then those that are like, there's an opportunity. I can do something with that, you know, and that's what we still have here. You know, imagine trying to do some of this stuff in Houston or developed areas. It's going to be very hard. To do that, you know. Same thing like if I went to be a plastic surgeon back, you know, when I graduated and stayed in Houston, I've been competing against 50 or 60. I came back here, there was like 2 plastic surgeons, 3 plastic surgeons, 4 maybe at the most. It wasn't much competition. So, you know, it was ripe. It was open to do what I wanted. Whatever I wanted to do, I could do.
Yeah, and you see, guys, that's the mind of a visionary, because like you are a visionary. Like it's not everybody is. And it's something, it might not even be innate. Like you can learn to be a visionary. But you know it when you see it, right?
Yeah, there's actually been studies done on that, and probably only about 4% of the population. See, 4% of the population visionaries driven. The world's been made for the other 96%, right? DoorDash is the perfect example. Now you can just stay at home and get your wings or Panda and kill yourself at home, right? You don't even have to leave now your house.
That's horrible,
right?
Man.
You can't not even walk to your car. Now you just stay on your couch and play your Xbox and get your food delivered, right?
Yeah, we're not DoorDashing salad
right.
either.
You know, yeah. So like that, this world has been made for the people who want comfort, right? And that's okay. We understand that. But yeah, being a visionary is like a different kind of mindset. And sometimes you might be in the room with people who are going to like try to tell you you're crazy, whatever. But again, don't ever take advice from people who haven't done what you're trying to do. Right? Like if you're trying to scale up to something, like if you want to do podcasts, don't talk to people who aren't. Talk to people who have successful podcasts and pick their brains. Hey, what did you do to get to the next level, right? Don't be asking random people on the street. They'll be oh, you're dumb for doing a podcast. Oh, a podcast. You told me that. A podcast about the Rio Grande Valley. Who would want that? Well, maybe the people that are moving to the Rio Grande Valley. Maybe the people that are traveling to the Rio Grande Valley would want that.
Or that left and they miss it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the people who live in the Rio Grande Valley will want. I mean, how many? Well, wait a minute. There's like several million people living in this corridor. Oh, okay. So your audience is okay. So that's not a crazy idea. Right?
Yeah.
It's not a crazy idea. It's a great idea.
We got to support each other, guys. Support each other's ideas. We got to come up with our own. The whole point of this conversation is to stimulate like growth, right? And to get to know you, not just as a plastic surgeon, but as a neighbor, man. Because like the more neighbors we have that think like this, the better our community will get. So what you just did, you just helped us grow a little bit more. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, honestly.
If anybody wants like get a guide on how to pick a plastic surgeon in a safe way, you can follow me at Plastic Rios, DM us, Safe Plastic Surgeon, and we'll send you a free PDF on that, you know, how to choose a plastic surgeon, because it's kind of hard these days.
There we go.
Figure out who's a real plastic surgeon and who's not, you know. So,
yeah, there we go. Dr. Rios on Cornerstone, right?
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for talking to us, man.
All right. Okay.
Appreciate your staff for telling me to get on the show. Is that what happened?
Yeah, no, I'm actually looking, you know, to get the word out a little bit more. My business coach is like, you got to get out there.
Okay, you know? Well, you're doing it, man. Yeah, so we're all doing it together, guys.
Yeah.
So thanks. Another week on the Rio Grande podcast. Dr. Luis Rios, straight out of Edinburgh, staying at home, and we'll see you next time, man.
Yeah, no DoorDash, no Netflix.
All right.
You got to make your own life a Netflix.
Hey, make a promise to yourself and keep it.
Yeah. All right.
All right. We'll see you guys later.
Take care.
Have a good night. Say no to drugs.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Say no to drugs for sure.